Walking around campus, it's almost impossible to not see at least one person with headphones in their ears listening to music. Everyone has a favorite band or type of music that they enjoy, and it differs from person to person, be it country or rap or rock and roll or even classical. Music plays such a big part in everyone's lives, whether they want it to or not. Personally, I have been playing the viola for about 12 years now, and it is something that I enjoy doing. And so music is a part of my life because I enjoy creating it as well as listening to it. I've been a part of many different ensembles in these past few years that consist of different types of instruments, including the symphony orchestra here at OU. These instruments, though they may seem varied from an outsider, can actually be divided into three separate families. These families are organized by the design of the instrument as well as the way that the instrument creates the sound. These three families are the percussion family, the wind family, and the string family. I'm going to start with the percussion family, which is one of the biggest families. It is found in most every genre of music as well as every culture in the world and is one of the oldest families of instruments. According to Jenny Gandhi, a percussion instrument can be defined as one that is struck or shaken with some sort of stick or mallet. The percussion section can be broken down further into two more categories: those instruments that create a specific pitch and those that create an indefinite pitch. The article Musical Instruments gives a few examples of some instruments with specific pitches, and these percussion instruments include the timpani, xylophone, glockenspiel, and marimba. The same article, Musical Instruments, gives some examples of musical instruments with indefinite pitches, and these include the triangle, gong, cymbals, tambourine, and many different types of drums, such as the snare drum. So while the percussion section gives a lot of the beat and keeps the tempo for the orchestra, the melody is often found in another section. This section is the wind section. Wind instruments create sound by air being blown through them, and like the percussion family, can be divided into two further categories, and these are the brass section and the woodwind section. Forney and Mashless defines a brass instrument as one that consists of a mouthpiece, some length and width and shape of metal tubing, and then a bell at the end. Examples of a brass instrument are the trumpet, French horn, trombone, and tuba. The other section, the woodwind section, consists of those instruments that have a pipe and finger holes, and some of these instruments also contain something called a reed, which is a small thin piece of wood that is a part of the mouthpiece. Forney and Mashless give a few examples of woodwind instruments, and these include the flute, oboe, saxophone, bassoon, and clarinet. While the percussion and the wind families provide a lot of the sound and substance of an orchestra, I think that the real beauty comes from the string section. The string section is my personal favorite. I may be a little bit biased. And these instruments create sound by the strings on the instruments vibrating in some way, shape, or form. They can be plucked with a finger or a pick, or they can use something called a bow, which is a piece of wood with horsehair attached to it that is drawn across the strings. Forney and Mashless give examples of those instruments that can be bowed or plucked depending on the type of sound that is wanted. And these instruments include the violin, viola, cello, and double bass. Forney and Matchless give more examples of those instruments that are solely plucked. They can't be bowed. And these instruments are the harp, guitar, mandolin, and banjo. So, all instruments in the Western Orchestra can be divided into one of these groups. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't mention the piano, one of the most common instruments. And this is because it's debated as to what section it goes into. Some people say it belongs in the percussion section because you have to strike the keys to play it. Other people believe it belongs with the string section because the actual way that it creates sound is the strings vibrating. So it can belong to either family depending on your view. So, not all instruments are created alike. They all have different ways of making their sound and qualities that separate them from one another. They all fit into one or more of the following categories: the percussion family, the wind family, and the string family. So the next time you're listening to a piece of music, listen closely and see if you can pick out the instruments that belong to all these three separate families.